French in Lausanne. And then I went to study music in Vienna. I had my musical beginnings in Europe. And Gary had his education and his beginnings of distillation in Europe. My learning was in Austria. Gary's learning was in France. We both have traveled extensively throughout Europe, and we both love this part of the world. Perhaps it was destiny that brought Gary and Jean-Noel together. Jean-Noel had grown up watching his grandmother use lavender for many different things, and knew that lavender had special benefits. So he decided to get into the business of growing and distilling essential oils. Well, he flew to America to attend a trade show, hoping he could find people who would be interested in buying his lavender. The trade show was in Pasadena, California. Anybody here been to Pasadena? It's a very small town. Not much that goes on there. But it was a very big trade show. And in trade shows, you have lots of booths. And you walk up and down the aisles, and your legs hurt, and you get hungry. And he's looking for someone who would be interested in his oils. And he found only one little booth with a few essential oils and supplements formulated with essential oils. And that caught his attention. He and Gary connected immediately. And Jean-Noel invited Gary to visit him when he came to France the next time. As the story goes, Jean-Noel was quite surprised when Gary called him from Paris just a few months later, which was the beginning of their 30-year-long friendship. Gary grew up farming, so naturally, his curiosity led him to explore how aromatic crops were grown and distilled to produce essential oils. It took him a long time to earn the trust of the French distillers, who were not anxious to let an American cowboy into their circle. Jean-Noel opened those doors for Gary, so he could learn from the French distillers, so he could learn from Marcel Espeut, who was the president of the Lavender Growers Association for over 20 years. And then Jean-Noel introduced him to M.Young, who was probably the most famous distiller. He was called the father of distillation in Provence at that time. One night at dinner, no, I think it was maybe later than that, after Gary had become acquainted, he was working with Henry Viola up on his mountain. And Henry said to him, "The day will come, the time will come, that if you don't grow the plants, you won't have the oil." There was something about those words that burned in Gary's heart, and he knew what he was going to do. Of course, all the Frenchmen laughed at Gary. An American who thought he could do what the Frenchmen do? Oh, come on, let's get serious here. And they would laugh and laugh at Gary. But he was driven to build his own distillery, where he could study and explore the art of distillation and improve upon the process. After 30 years, his innovations and new techniques have proven to be the best, have proven to produce the best essential oils in the world. Our farm managers were taught by Gary, and they continue to distill new plants and conifers and make new discoveries. But it isn't just the method of distillation. It begins with the soil. Gary was very specific about buying farmland that hadn't been treated with chemicals. And if the soil was deficient of nutrients, he would then add the nutrients and grow cover crops that could eventually be turned under into the soil to give more nutrients. How many companies would go to that effort? I don't know, I don't think any really. It seems that today more people are asking for products without chemicals, food grown without chemicals. They want to live in an environment without chemicals. Gary knew the problems that chemicals created. He suffered because of chemicals. After his accident, the doctors prescribed many medications, and Gary was told he would have to take those medications the rest of his life. He had the bottles set up in the bathroom on the counter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He said it was something like 7 or 8 different medications that he would take. And he would take one chemical after another, morning, noon, and night. So he was almost a chemical factory himself. He told me one day he looked in the mirror and he didn't know who he was. And his head, his body was just spinning. The doctors told him if he didn't take those medications the rest of his life, he would die. He decided he would rather die than live that way. So he picked up the garbage can, held it under the counter, and went like this. All the drugs in the garbage can. And you know what? He didn't die. He surprised them all. But from that moment, he began to search for ways to heal his body with natural products, with good nutrition, fruits and vegetables and herbs. No more chemicals. That took him down many paths of many new discoveries. Anna Marie from Switzerland came to Gary's clinic in Mexico. She offered him some information that doctors had translated from French. Doctors who were studying the effects of essential oils and respiratory illness. He read it. He was so excited. He called her at 6 o'clock in the morning and said, I want to know more. And she said, oh, I thought so. So she had already booked him a reservation and made plans for him to go to Geneva to attend a medical seminar where these doctors were presenting their research on the effects of essential oils and respiratory illness. He was so excited. He bought 13 oils and took them back to California, to Baja California, to his clinic. And he started studying essential oils. Now, do you think there were any books on essential oils back in 1982, 83? No. There wasn't anything in English. Do you think there were any teachers? No. Do you think anybody was out there talking about essential oils? No. So where would you go to get an essential oil? You would go to the pharmacy. You would go to the drugstore. You would buy perfume oils. You have to bear with me. I do not do well in air conditioning. It's what comes through the vents, and it affects me every single time. So, Gary started experimenting. You know what he did? He experimented on the clients who were in the clinic, on human beings. And Gary was an expert at studying the blood with a microscope, and so he would analyze the blood and he could see what was happening. He'd make formulas, supplements with essential oils. He'd give them to the patients. Then he'd take their blood and he could see if it was working. If it wasn't working, he'd change it. He'd make it different. Who does that? Who cares about what people take? Who cares about what the effect is? A little bit, maybe. And you got a headache, take an aspirin, right? The drug companies all know it probably works. But that's not what Gary wanted. That was another drug. Not only did he not want to find out what you could take naturally, but he wanted to teach people how to be strong. I have one. Oh, hey, you got one from here. Thank you. He wanted to find out how the human body could stay strong and healthy first. So you didn't need the drugs. He wanted you to be strong and healthy before you got sick. He told me, this is kind of funny, but when I asked him what his choice was or why he left his clinic, he said, Mary, I got tired of the sick and dead business. I wanted to get into a life of health business. He sold his clinic in Mexico. He moved back to the United States, and Young Living was born in 1988. He brought his formulas, his blends, everything that he had learned, and he went out and began teaching about essential oils. That's where it all began, the discovery of essential oils and their benefits for the human body. The beginning of what we have today. Oh my goodness, he was so criticized and ridiculed. But he didn't die, and neither did his determination. And Young Living started to grow. People began to wonder, what was he doing? What did he know that they didn't know? And you know what? They began to copy him. And today, they are still copying him. There's a large essential oil company that is owned by former Young Living employees who took Gary's intellectual property, his research that he had been accumulating for over 35 years, to when his employees left. They took his formulas, they took distributor lists, and they used it to create their own company. I'm sure you can guess what I'm talking about. But you know what they said? You know why they did it? Because they said there was money to be made with essential oils. And they would have great marketing and they would become the best. The best? If you build a company purely for the purpose of chasing money, you won't have a strong or a long-lasting, safe foundation. You have to have a purpose to serve mankind, to do good in the world, to have lasting value. You can say all the right words, but it is what is in your heart that counts. And in the end, that which is in your heart will be your reward. Trust me. I don't know when it will happen. But you can't live a lie and you can't live falsehoods all your life. The truth eventually comes to the surface. There weren't any essential oil companies in America before Young Living. We were the first. So if you look at any essential oil companies that started in the last 15 or 20 years, their roots go back to Young Living. Why? Because they copied. You can see it in their literature, their products, the words they use. Yeah, people are very clever at, creating something that says it differently, but they still say the same thing. No one has done the research that Gary did, and no one has given so much to produce essential oils with quality and purity as he did. Everything that Gary did established the Young Living standard, which is the industry standard today. No one else has such amazing farming history. No one else has spent years researching essential oils and their effect on the human body. Gary's research was vast, and it was because of his personal discoveries that he determined essential oils belonged to the world. And that's why he gave up what he was doing to build Young Living for this purpose. And we are the ones who have benefited. You and I, we. I know. I was there. I watched him persevere through slander, criticism, and most of all the intense pain from which he was never free because of that terrible accident. Do you know what? He was driven with his mission. He never let anything stop him because he had a purpose. And that purpose was fueled by his desire to bring essential oils to the world for the benefit of mankind. To help us understand our connection to Mother Earth and the plant kingdom. Here, I think behind me, I don't know, I can't see. They were going to put up a few photographs. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. I'm not watching. But Gary was, there he is sitting at his office in his clinic. He was so good at the microscope. I told you about the blood and how he could see all sorts of things and how that person needed this or that or the other. And he created formulas for the need of the individuals. How many of you are familiar with the product Comfort Tone? Yeah, you know why he made that? To help you have a moving experience. And if you didn't have a moving experience, then you took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, however many it was until you had a moving experience. That and multigreen are two of the first products that he created. Now, Gary was a very innovative person. He was very analytical. And no matter what he did, he was always looking to make it better. Now he got the idea. Essential oils are a living essence of the plant. Oils are alive. What if he put the alive essence from the plant into the powder? It would make the powder stronger. So he started doing that. Multigreen was the very first product that he tried it with. The Comfort Tone is the second. And those products have never been changed. The formulas have never been changed. But there's a very funny story that goes along. And I heard Gary tell the story many times, and it never varied. It was always the same. So I know he wasn't making it up. Because if you make stuff up, you can't remember what you said yesterday. Well, he's got his little centrifuge in the kitchen going. And he's got his powder in there. And so he starts to put in his oil formula. And he thinks this is going to be so great. Well, centrifuge is going, and he's all excited. But you know what? When the centrifuge stopped, the formula, the powder stuck like glue against the sides. And he had to take a chisel to get it off. Well, he's laughing when he tells the story, but I doubt very much he was laughing when the centrifuge stopped. But you know, I never heard Gary say a bad word when something went wrong. He wasn't one to use bad language. And he would just kind of scratch his eyebrows and look at it. He'd step back, and you could see he was analyzing what his solution was going to be. How many of you get mad when things go wrong? You get so mad you just want to walk out and forget it. Walk away from it. Not Gary. He was the ultimate example of finding a solution. And he would just start over. And he would keep doing it until he got what he wanted. Gary was a pioneer in putting essential oils into supplements. You know the word crazy? They thought Gary was crazy because that's what he wanted to do. I ask you, the next time you go to the store, look at your label and see how many labels have essential oils in them. How many supplements carry peppermint, spearmint, clove, rosemary. That wouldn't have happened if Gary hadn't started it. We're the ones who benefit. But we get good oils, we get pure oils. We get oils tested in our laboratories, so we know they're good. We know they don't have stuff in them. You don't know that when you buy something off the shelf in the store, because they don't care about your well-being. They care about making money. I shouldn't say all do. There are a few good companies out there that do care. But the majority are there for the money. Gary would go and gather herbs on the weekends. He would crush them himself. He made his tinctures. He experimented with the essential oil in his own apothecary. He did it all because he wanted to provide the best for those in need. That's you and me. So the next time you take one of the supplements, just ask yourself, why was this supplement made? And I guarantee you, you can find the answer in the literature somewhere, because every single thing that Gary made, he made for the purpose of helping someone else. He never made anything for money. He wasn't about the money. Gary could make money doing anything. He was brilliant. But because of this horrible accident, he wanted to heal his own body. So what was good for him would be good for all of us. And that's why we have what we have. In 1992, Gary began plowing the field. You know the story behind that? He brought seeds home from France. And he decided to plant them behind his building in Spokane, Washington. A little tiny piece of ground. And you know what? Those plants were grown and cared for with so much love. They grew so big and so fast that after 2 years, he couldn't wait a third year, so he decided to cut them and distill them. And he took 2 big pots, 2 pressure cookers, and welded them together, put the water in the bottom, the plants on the top, turned the stove on to see what would happen. And he got a few drops of oil. He sent those oils to Dr. Kurt Schnaubert. Some of you know that name. He's a German chemist. And Kurt called Gary and said, "Where'd you get this oil?" He said, "I distilled it from plants I grew in my backyard." "No, you didn't." "I really did." He said, "This is the finest lavender I've ever seen." Well, with that, the race was on. So Gary started hunting for ground. He started hunting for a farm. And he found the farm land in St. Mary's. And naturally, he took all those little plants from his office, transplanted them to the farm in St. Mary's, and planted the rest of the seed. And the lavender grew so beautifully. Because he was so concerned about chemicals, he wanted to make sure that he bought land that hadn't had chemicals on it. This was farmland. It was grazing land for cows in the summer. Nothing else. So it never had chemicals. It was hard as a rock. It had a very low pH, 4.5. Lavender won't grow in 4.5. It's got to be at least a 7. So what Gary did, he started putting nutrients in the ground. Here he's putting microbes in the ground. Everything had to be so precise. I talked about the soil, the seed, cultivation practices, the harvest, each of which is critical. But to get the highest quality, you must also be precise in your distillation. The temperature, the pressure, the time are all important. What quality of oil will you produce if you demand perfection in the soil preparation, exactness in cultivation and harvest, and preciseness in distillation? extracting the oil from the plants. What's going to be your quality? It's certainly going to be a lot better than that which you might buy, say, at Walmart or Target, or just some little store that thinks they can make money selling essential oils. And what do? We test. We make sure we have the best. You have to care about who uses the essential oil. Who's going to use the oil? And what will they be using it for? To put that much effort into the quality that you want to produce. That is why we do what we do. That is why we have our farms, so we can produce the best quality. And so we can learn from our own process, which gives us knowledge to continually make new discoveries and work with other distilleries and help them raise their standards. We set the standard, but we share our knowledge with others because we want others who are producing essential oils to produce high quality. For some reason, other jealous people who don't have farms have decided to attack seed to seal. I don't hear too much about it because I don't have time to listen to it. But I do hear things here and there, and I know you're hearing it. How sad it is that when you can't do something well yourself, you have to attack someone else who is. Seed to seal is our commitment to providing you the very best from our farms, partner farms, and suppliers we buy oils from. Our laboratories are some of the finest in the world, and I'm told that we have specialized equipment for testing essential oils, which other laboratories don't have. If you come to Utah, come and see our laboratories. We give people tours. You can come and see. It's open to the world because we are proud of what we do. We have spent millions of dollars in equipment and instrumentation and highly qualified scientists who are experts in their fields. If an oil doesn't meet our standard, we send it back to the producer. And we can only assume that these oils that didn't pass our scrutiny end up back in the supply chain of other essential oil companies. I remember one time we didn't have enough hill cruising, and we had finally received a shipment, and we were so excited. Gary smelled it. You know, he had the nose of a perfumer. Oh my goodness, he could smell everything. And he said, it wasn't a good oil, it wasn't good quality. And we went, no! He said, this oil has been scorched. It's been burned. Send it back. Oh, Gary, no, yes, send it back. We're all crying blues. I was there, I heard him say it. I know what happened. You know who bought it? Oh, that company down the road, things they've done to their If the dollar is what drives you, then a scorched oil doesn't matter because the consumer likely won't notice. Gary had discovered the importance of hill cruising, which happens to be my favorite oil. It is also Joseph's favorite oil. But when supplies in the world seemed to be diminishing, Gary went to Croatia, found a farm, made a deal, bought a building, and built a distillery in 19 days. It was magnificent what he did. And now we have this beautiful facility in Split that you all can visit.
Yes.
If you don't know why hill cruising is important, I bet you there are many people in this audience who can tell you why it's important. I don't have to stand up here and get in trouble. You can all talk to each other. Or over the dishes at the kitchen table or in the restaurant. But please talk to each other. Just don't put it on the internet or anything now, because that will get me in trouble. Zoran Restic manages the entire operation in Croatia and does a magnificent job. We're fortunate to have Zoran here at convention, so please ask him lots of questions when you see him in the expo. Zoran, I know you're here somewhere. Can you stand up? I don't know where you are. Come out into the aisle where they can see you in the light. There he is. Zoran was a part of that 19 days, and he can absolutely tell you that everything I'm telling you is the truth. I'm not making up anything. We just recently had a very successful silver retreat in Croatia, and brand partners had a wonderful opportunity to visit the farms and distillery. Look how happy they are, happy faces. Gary's discoveries in Europe began back in the late 80s when he traveled to France to learn how to produce lavender, or to learn how lavender was produced, I should say. I asked Jean-Noël Landale to write his memories with Gary, as he is part of our history, the young living history, which would be lost forever if he didn't write this book. I know it wasn't easy for him, because he misses Gary a lot. But I finally received the manuscript about a year ago. We had lots of pictures. We added lots of pictures to make the book more fun and interesting. And most of the pictures have never been seen before. The book was delivered to us 1 week before the U.S. convention. It created so much excitement. We plan on releasing Jean-Noël's book in digital form as an ebook in your different languages soon, so that all of you will be able to read about their adventures. But we have a few books here in English that you can buy. And everybody brought their suitcases.
Super!
During the convention in Utah, Jean-Noël's son Nicolas, who is the manager of our farm in France, was in attendance. So he was able to sign books for many of our members. Nicolas is doing a fabulous job carrying the legacy forward. His background and experience is most unusual because he was mentored not only by his father but by Gary. When Nicholas was a baby and Gary was visiting them, Gary had lavender on the feet.
Oh yes.
Ah, what a connection. They definitely have a very special relationship. And it continues on, and that relationship benefits all of us. I heard that several hundred members were able to participate in the lavender harvest this summer in France. And because of Nicholas, who loves having you come and visit, you had a lot of fun, and everyone learned a lot. I know Nicholas is here. We like these guys. I like them too. I love them. But today, I am especially thrilled to introduce Jean-Noël, who is here with us. Jean-Noël, come on. Tell you why he's here, why he gave me the present, and how he feels about all of this. Maybe he had a couple of fun stories.
Bonjour.
Pardon.
Ah, super, vous parlez tous français. Parce que moi, j'ai oublié de parler anglais. Aber ich kann Deutsch sprechen. Bon, ça fait longtemps que je ne suis pas venu à une convention. Et très franchement, je suis content de voir qu'il y a quand même beaucoup d'Européens qui ont adhéré à la philosophie. Anyway, now I will try to speak English. So it's been a long time since I came to a convention of Young Living. It's very good. I am very happy to see that in Europe with so many people, because when I met Gary 32 years ago, there was a few people practicing aromatherapy with single blend, not blends, single oils, no blends. And when I met Gary, I had the feeling this way of making products like Mary just explained to you would never work in Europe. I thought so, because Europeans are so traditional, not as open as Americans. I thought it wouldn't work. But when I see you here, I was wrong. Obviously. So going back to the roots of Young Living, I don't have much to say because Mary just said everything I wanted to say. And then anything else is written in the book, so just get the book and you will know all about the story and the roots of Young Living. But anyway, I want to insist on a few things. Speaking of roots, when I first met Gary in 1990, Nicolas was 2 months old. Yes, when I first met Gary, I realized that I didn't understand what I was doing as a distiller. We were distilling oils from Provence, 99% for the perfume industry. So we set our way of working for them only, that means cost-wise. We had to lower the cost all the time because we were in competition with chemicals, you know, fake lavender smell and so on. When I met Gary, I had to change completely my vision of distilling because he said, I don't care about the cost, I want quality. I want real purity of the product and quality. That's all. I won't even talk about cost. But please change your way of working. And it's hard to explain friendship. But I understood that I was dealing with a person completely different from the buyers of those big perfume industry I was used to have contact with. And that's how friendship builds, is I could trust that man. He was doing it not for the gain, the money, he was doing it by passion, and he could really give me his passion. I remember the first time he came to France, he stayed for a couple of weeks in our house, And we talked and talked and talked about the virtues of essential oils for all night long after dinner, and nobody else would be like that at that time. So I really insist that you have the pioneering company with you. Gary, and I met many people in the so-called aromatherapy business afterwards. I have never met anybody with such a passion for quality and for helping others through the use of the essential oils. So it has been not just a leader, but an example for me. So I had to turn my vision of essential oils, as I said, and little by little go into more than just physical power of the essential oils. Jerry was also very open to psychological effects of essential oils. Nobody knew at that time about the effect that really is proven now by science, that when you just smell like lavender, of course, but also frankincense oil, it will change something in the connection in our brain. I'm not a scientist, but I know it will change our way of we communicate with others. So Gary knew that over 30 years ago. And also for me, and that really helped me in my life, in my family's life, Gary told me that essential oils also have a spiritual value. Gary was a man who was inspired, he was praying, just living. Prayer was his way of life. And he knew that essential oils and those very tiny molecules in it could have an effect on the soul and the way we communicate on a spiritual level. So that was totally revolutionary. Really, at the beginning, I didn't believe it. So coming back to the writing of the book, it was hard for me. Because first, one of my mottos in French is pour vivre heureux, vivons cachés. Can somebody translate that? To live happily, live hidden. So by writing a book with my whole story, personal, plus main of my story was the friendship with Gary, was difficult for me. But little by little, writing it took me 3 years. Little by little, I could feel the presence of Gary. Come on, come on.
Que fajnie.
And I could feel also the presence of Mary. Hey, where's the book? Where's the book? So after 3 years, I finally said no. I asked a friend of mine, a British woman, to do a translation in English, send that to Mary, said, I have to rewrite all again because nobody but British would understand. It had to be written in American English. So Mary really helped for the translation, plus pictures. So now you will all know about me, more than I could say. And the main thing you need to know is that nobody else but you have this credibility as essential oil distributors. Only this company has been based on a pioneer, Gary, who really knew when nobody else knew at that time. So any other company coming afterwards are, as Mary said, are just copying and taking away. And that was easy with Gary to take away, because he was giving away. That was his motto. I give you. I remember once he called me at 2 in the morning. Hey, Jean-Marc, I found a way to get a much better yield on that was the Melissa oil. Melissa oil, you must know, is very hard to separate from the water that we use for making steam. And he found something, I remember, and he was so excited, and he was telling me the secret, because there was no secret with him. And I think that was his base in philosophy: give away to everybody whatever he could find to help others in help. That's about all. So I will sign the book. I will not talk too much with everybody, especially if there is a long queue, but I will sign the book this afternoon. Anything else you want me to say?
Oh, that was amazing. Thank you, Jean-Noel, so much. He called me and said he was thinking about coming to the convention last week. And I said, well, I'm thinking about going too. I said, okay, we'll see each other there. He said, do you have any books? I said, well, not many. He said, well, do you have some? I said, we'll see what we can do. So everyone from the U.S. who came carried books in their suitcase. But we do intend to have it available to you. You have so many languages, and the costs aren't enormous, as you know now. It's not like it used to be. And you've got to have an e-book anyway, so that is the intention. But we are so lucky. You are so lucky to have two important farms in Europe. When I attended the Gold Retreat last week in the St. Mary's Farm, perhaps some of you were there, but it was a fabulous time with our members. Imagine 30 years when Gary first bought that little farm, and it is the smallest farm, but it's where it all began. We're here to do so much research, designing, experimenting, innovating, and even fabricating in the garage of the old farmhouse. He discovered how to best grow, harvest, and distill the plants. I have great memories of being part of that, and so much was trial and error. But Gary went after every problem, determined to find a solution. It was fascinating to watch his ideas become reality. We have 2 farms in Idaho, which are very different and produce different oils. Highland Flats distills the conifer oils. Anybody here been to Highland Flats? Cold, freezing, miserable, snowy weather. But you get great oils from that cold weather. The environment is very different, and lavender would never grow there. Brett Packer was the manager of the Highland Flats farm, and then we asked him if he would take St. Mary's, because he was often going down there anyway. So Brett became the manager of both farms. He did such a fabulous job that he became the director of Global Farms. So he has even a bigger responsibility. And you know what? He loves every second of it. Brett is also here today, so I know you can ask him lots of questions. Brett, are you here in the audience? Anybody see Brett anywhere? He and Nicholas are going to be on stage speaking to you. So you'll be able to enjoy their personalities together. You have a wonderful opportunity to take what Young Living does that no other company in the world offers. The farms are the foundation of our business, your business, and you are invited to visit, to come and work and be part of the harvest and the distillation. you can experience firsthand. You know what it takes to produce an essential oil, a pure, therapeutic, perfect, pure oil. I just don't quote me. Erase it from your taking. I'd be in trouble with that one. But it's all true, and you all know it. We also have Joe Walker, who is here, our Executive Vice President of Global Farms. Joe has been with Young Living for 17 years, and he has so many responsibilities. He's responsible for Young Living worldwide infrastructure, meaning he takes care of the buildings, the internet, the wires, the cables, and everything that makes it work. Is Joe here? Joe, are you here?
Nobody.
Yeah, they're out working. They're trying to get everything ready for you. But in the office, he always wears a cowboy hat, so I call him our resident cowboy. He was so close to Gary, and he loves the farms. He can tell stories of the intricate part, the beginning of the farms. Every farm in the world is different. No two farms are alike. It may take some of you time to visit all of them, especially with the world the way it is. But I think it is one of the most valuable things that you can do for yourself. Make that your goal, because that is where you will really come to understand the foundation of Young Living. Northern Lights. Look at those beautiful trees in the Northern Lights.
Wow.
Anybody here been to Northern Lights? I mean, that is a spectacular